Following the recent arrest of disgraced former Staunton Police Detective Matthew Farwell shines a bright new light on a case involving another former police detective and former Boston Police Patrolmen's Association president, Patrick Rose. 33 counts of exploiting children and keeping his job while his buddies help cover it up. Gosh, the similarities are uncanny, but why? Why am I not surprised? Hello, 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 and welcome to Alexa's Room, where we are not lawyers, we are not medical professionals, we are not law enforcement, we are just people. People who have opinions about all things going on in the true crime community, including this article that recently resurfaced of a disgraced Boston Police Union president for arring children for essentially decades and getting away with it scot free up until his arrest in 2020. It's just so eerily similar to what Matthew Farwell really could have grown into be. And who knows? Who knows if there are other victims? I have a hinting suspicion that unfortunately, I don't think Sandra Birchmore was the only one. Time will only tell as more and more evidence comes to light. So let's dive in. Department covered for and protected police union president as he arred kids for decades. Now, this article was published in 2021. He was arrested, from my understanding, in 2020. Newly released documents show the Boston PD knew their top cop was arring children, and they did everything they could to not seek justice for those children, but to cover it up. So on Tuesday, documents, so again, this was in 2021, were released detailing the ABUSE and cover up of said ABUSE carried out by Patrick M. Rose Sr., the former president of the Boston Police Patrolmen's Association and Boston PD detective. Rose has been charged with emming children, and he did plead guilty, to my understanding as well too, as we'll read more and more as we dive into this article more. And the documents prove the department knew. The department knew. They had evidence. They had evidence. And what they do when they drop these charges is, and why they drop these charges on a criminal level is absolutely disturbing when you hear it, folks. And allowed him to continue to serve in their ranks and even engage with children. Let that sink in for a second. The documents are I will say they are heavily redacted. Copies of internal affairs investigations into Rose, Boston Mayor Kim Janey's office said the information was to be released to shed light on the baffling case of how Boston's top cop was allowed to go on hurting children for decades. It is appalling that there was a documented history of alleged child SA, yet this individual was able to serve out his career as an officer to serve and protect nonetheless, and eventually became the head of the patrolmen's union for several years. And like, part of me wonders when he was an active patrolmen's union president. I mean, that would be really, really interesting if any of y'all know, but I didn't have time to dig in too deep into that, but I'd be curious. But nonetheless, the crimes that he committed occurred initially when this investigation happened. The first time around was in the 90s. The 90s. Now, I'm a 90s baby, and sometimes it's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that I am more than 20 years old. That is just something I am struggling to accept, but I am accepting. So it's wild. I mean, it's wild to think that this happened over and over and over again. He essentially got a free pass to do whatever he wanted with a mild slap on the wrist. The evidence surfaced in 95 when the Boston Police Department filed a criminal complaint against Rose for SA on a 12-year-old boy. Very eerily similar to the Sandra Birchmore case, because she was also 12 when she first met Matthew Farwell, and that is when the grooming was alleged to have started, and then She was first R'd when she was 15. Despite the evidence, Rose managed to get the case against him dropped. An internal affairs investigation would later conclude that Rose indeed committed the crime. So they were saying, yeah, we knew all about it. Just like the Sandra Birchmore case. However, he kept his badge and remained a cop for the next years, continuing to hurt children over the course of the following 2 decades. So not only are you giving this guy, not only are these taxpayers paying to fund this disgusting human being's life, but he's also allowed to engage with children. How disgusting and despicable. And these people, it's not like they investigated and they couldn't find evidence. They found the evidence. They knew the evidence was there and they did squat. They did squat diddly to protect the children. Why did these guys get a free pass? Even after Boston Police Department investigators informed then Commissioner Paul F. Evans in 96 that there was credible evidence supporting allegations that one of the department's officers had essayed a child, that officer was allowed to keep his job, according to the documents. He said it was deeply unsettling and entirely unacceptable that Rose remained on the force for 2 decades, enabling his ascent to the top of the police union. And that's the thing, is not only everybody involved is guilty. If you knew about it and you didn't do the right thing, because it seemed like there were some people who were like, no, there's evidence behind this and this guy needs to be criminally investigated and criminally prosecuted for these alleged crimes, which now he's been since convicted for. Everybody else who was involved in the cover up is a disgrace, is equally a disgrace to the Boston Police Department. Because you're enabling that behavior. You're allowing these monsters to continue to wear badges, continuing to put them in situations where you are harming children. Disgusting. What's more, Rose was allowed to have contact with young victims of SA during the course of his career, and we now know that he allegedly went on to attack several other children. Shame on all of you. Rose's fall from police grace began last August, so again, this is back in 21, so back in 2020, when a father and his daughter walked into the station to file a complaint against Rose. The father and daughter alleged that Rose repeatedly R'd her from age 7 to 12. Empowered by the original girl's courage, over the next several weeks, more victims came forward, detailing horrifying abuse by Rose spanning the course of decades. As the Boston Globe reports, Boston police are fighting to keep secret how the department handled the allegations against Rose and what, if any, penalty he faced. What, if anything? Over the years, this horrific case has come full circle. The father who brought his daughter in last summer to report ABUSE by Rose was the boy he attacked. Are you absolutely freaking kidding me? So not only the actual, like, balls of this dude, the nerve. How depraved and evil can you be? You hurt this poor boy who is now a man, who now has a child, who has to live for the rest of his life with the crap that you put him through, and now you put his daughter through the same thing. I can't even imagine what this poor man is going through, what his daughter is going. This is like other level evil. The father who brought his daughter in to report this was the boy who was attacked at 12 in the 1995 case. The department's lack of administrative action, yeah, no duh, back then may have left Rose free to offend again and again from one generation to the next. And you know what's equally like disturbing is we're all taught as children to be afraid stranger danger, right? But we're never taught to think that people like police officers or firefighters or doctors or teachers, all these people that are the unsung heroes in our society, right? That we're supposed to aspire to look up to, see as role models. These are the monsters. And I'm not saying that stranger danger isn't real, it happens all the time. But what's scarier is when it's coming from people that we're supposed to look up to as children, aspire to be. You know, when they do that exercise when you're in first grade, kindergarten, whatever, and they ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? How many kids say, I want to be a police officer? I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher. You're taking this seemingly innocent idealization away from these children. And it's sick. And it's sick. And we need to figure out a way to prevent monsters from getting badges, from giving them positions of power, from giving them access to children. I don't know. I don't know how we do that. I don't know if that involves more psychological testing before the fact. I don't know. I don't know. But this is, at the very least, whoever the heck is helping cover it up, they need to be criminally prosecuted because that is disgusting. Indeed, not only did this child predator keep his badge, but as he moved up through the ranks, he was sent. So, again, not only did he keep his badge, but he moves up. He gets promoted. You get a reward when you act out and you do something, the worst of the worst thing that you could possibly do. Any human being could do is to hurt a child. You get promoted. Was sent to respond to cases involving children. Like, Rose has since been arrested and has pleaded not guilty to 33 total like 33 involving six alleged victims, and is being held on a $200,000 cash bail. I mean, this is not, I'm sorry. And this is what is so disgraceful about the justice system. But I don't care how many times you offend. If you hurt a child in any way, shape, or form, guess what, buddy? You shouldn't get the opportunity to reform. You don't, because people like that do not change. That's not like, it's not a mistake. People like this do not change. People like this do not get to reform. They don't. They don't, because they are sick. They are depraved and they are evil and they are twisted. And when you give them access to the thing that they desire, they take advantage of it and they hurt and they reoffend again and again and again. It's like, how many children need to be victims before something is actually done? And why does he get, like, look, this is such a disgrace. $200,000 cash bail. Unbelievable. Based on a review of former officer Rose's internal affairs file conducted by the city laws department, which we have pulled up, and I'm going to read a quick little paragraph from it. It is clear that previous leaders of the police department neglected their duty to protect and serve. Yeah, no kidding. Despite an internal affairs investigation in 96 that found credible evidence to sustain the allegation, and they did. They checked the box that said sustained. Check the box. Not unfounded, not exonerated, sustained. Against Rose for essaying a minor, it appears that the police department made no attempt to fire him. No, they promoted him. They promoted him. While the idea of a police department covering up horrific crimes against children is certainly shocking, it is par for the course. Yeah, unfortunately, we see this all the time. As TFTP reported back in March, two other high-profile top cops made the news over allegations of DV, according to the Globe. So this was another little excerpt too, and this is what I'm talking about. This isn't an isolated incident. This has been going on, and it's not just recent. This is stuff that's been going on for years and years and years. And the same people. It's disgusting. Newly appointed Boston Police Commissioner Dennis White was abruptly placed on paid leave, and they always get paid leave with taxpayers' money. Leave after details surfaced of a 1999 allegation that he had pushed and threatened to shoot his then wife, who is also an officer. Just 4 days earlier, a veteran state police supervisor, Sergeant Brian Eckerson, was jailed in New Hampshire, accused of choking and headbutting a woman, as well as leading police on a high-speed chase from the scene. Like, what is actually going on? These cases sparked an interest in the Globe, who dug deeper and found that they are anything but isolated. But even more worrisome is that in most instances of DV, the officers face no discipline, much less criminal charges, and just like we're going to see in this document. According to the report of the dozens of state police and Boston police officers who have been investigated over the past decade for DV related offenses, more than half have gone entirely undisciplined, records show. While some have remained on the job despite multiple allegations against them, and again, especially for those who are literally offending children, why do you continue to give them access to children if you have evidence to support that they are hurting children? I'm not understanding that. Unless you're doing the same thing too. My God. But it gets worse. Even when female cops complain that their husband cops hurt them, this was ignored as well. If they are so willing to ignore decades of child SA, it should come as no surprise that DV would also be swept under the rug. And again, I have to say, this is going way deeper than just the Sandra Birchmore case. It's so sad that this stuff keeps happening. This is like the Jeffrey Epstein Island. So this is page 12. And again, I'll link this in my description box below if you want to read through the whole 98 pages. Most of it is redacted specifically in regards to the statements that were made from the victims of what happened to them at the hands of this evil scumbag. But this is ultimately what happened. So even though they found sufficient evidence, check this out. On 11/20/95, Sergeant Detective McLean, accompanied by Lieutenant Donahue, applied and received a complaint for indecent and battery on a child under 14 years old from the West Roxbury District Court against Patrick Rose Sr. On November 20th, 1995, the summons was served by Sergeant Detective McLean to the law office of Patrick Rose's attorney, Thomas Dressler. Arraignment set for 11/22/1995 at 2 p.m. On December 1st, 95, Sergeant Detective McLean and Lieutenant Donahue responded to West Roxbury Court, where Officer Rose was arraigned. District Attorney Haskell, and then that's redacted, went before Judge Zimian, who placed Officer Rose on pretrial probation for 1 year. and ordered Officer Rose. This is the part that gets me, guys. So he gets pretrial probation. He gets to roam around the streets and ordered Officer Rose to attend therapy and blank, I don't know what that is, as directed by the blank. I guess use your context clues to fill in that gap there. The matter then was set for a status update in West Roxbury Court for January 30th of 96. On January 29th in 1996, in the West Roxbury District Court, Judge Dolan vacated RO, so I guess that's restraining order. I'm not exactly sure. On January 30th, so this is when they were supposed to have the status update, Sergeant Detective McLean appeared in the West Roxbury District Court, where the Patrick Rose matter was continued for a status update on May 7th. So it was continued again, even more several months. On May 7th, 1996, this investigator appeared in the West Roxbury District Court for the status update hearing on police officer Patrick Rose. ADA Lynn Brennan presented the case for the Commonwealth and requested that the matter be dismissed as a result of the defendant's compliance with the pretrial conditions and the Commonwealth's unwillingness to compel testimony from the victim and or the victim's family. Judge Simeon dismissed the matter. Summary. Here's why. Albeit the Commonwealth declined to pursue the prosecution of Officer Patrick Rose, the Commonwealth took that posture, as stated by ADA Lynn Brennan, as a result of the victim/victims' unwillingness to testify and or the Commonwealth's unwillingness to compel the victim/victims to testify. Gee, I wonder why a 12-year-old boy who was, I don't know, R'd and M'd wouldn't want to testify in front of a room of strangers. I wonder why. So that's why they were ultimately dropped on a criminal charge. The court matter was not disposed of due to the proven innocence of or as a result of any testimony that indicated any falsehoods made against Officer Rose on the part of the victim. I guess that's the victim's name. On the contrary, the disposition that required Officer Rose to attend therapy and I don't know what this is recognition. And oh my god, this is so frustrating. This is so frustrating. Ah, is recognition of the existence of a problem that required corrective measures as a result of the actions of Officer Rose. That's not a problem that therapy can fix. That's evil. That's evil. And I don't care. I believe, generally speaking, in reform. I believe most people can reform. A lot of low level criminals, for sure, 100%. But people like this? No. They don't reform, they don't change because they are sick. Hurting children, that's evil. That's evil. No counseling, no therapy is going to fix that. That's absolutely disgraceful and shameful. So, because of that, because the child, the poor 12-year-old boy, whose daughter later on faced the same exact ABUSC that he did when he was a child by the same exact man. Unbelievable. But that's not all, folks, because that was before he was convicted. That article, that was all the before. So let's see what his sentencing looked like. So this is 2022. Literally a year later. Patrick Rose, who had previously pleaded not guilty and maintained his innocence, but changed his plea during an appearance in Suffolk Superior Court, he pleaded guilty to 21 counts of child R, an essay over a 27-year period. And he was sentenced to a whopping 10 to 13 years, plus 10 years probation following his release. 21 counts. 21 counts. Do you guys think that's enough? Anybody who covered up for this should be 100% held accountable. In my opinion, you all should serve a life sentence. Because these children they have to live the rest of their lives with this ingrained in their brain. This haunting memory. Memories that are going to affect every single thing that they do, every choice they make in their life in the years to follow. Doesn't matter how much time passes, it doesn't make it right. So yeah, this might feel like a small victory. Okay, you get him off the streets for what, 10 to 13 years, then he has 10 years probation? Get out of here. Get out of here with that nonsense. So that's that deplorable human being, Patrick Rose. And here's what another deplorable human being looks like, Matthew Farwell. So continuing on from our readout from the other day, I really believe, and this is why I wanted to start with the Patrick Rose story, is I believe this is what Matthew Farwell very well could have been. I mean, we even saw just from those first 33 pages, which only included some of the thousands of messages exchanged between Matthew Farwell and Sandra Birchmore. Those were only a few. That was only like a tiny clip into his perverted, disgusting, evil mind. There was only a little tiny look. I can't imagine. I really believe there could be more. There could absolutely be more. And he's got a twin brother. And don't forget about Robert Devine. So, oh yeah, there's some interesting news about that one too, which I might pull up if I have a little extra time at the end as well. How far did these crimes have to go for people to take notice and to do something about it? So, Massachusetts State Police interview of Matthew Farwell. On February 6, 2021, 2 days after police found Birchmore's body in her apartment, Massachusetts State Police detectives interviewed Farwell. The interview occurred in the parking lot of a Staunton elementary school. I have a lot of questions. For one, why was he at an elementary school? And why were they conducting a police interview there? Why does this reek so disgustingly of how the police interviews were handled in the John O'Keefe murder? Of course, it was unrecorded because good old boys got to watch each other's backs, right? I mean, just knowing what you're investigating this guy and knowing that you have the evidence, and at this point, I don't know if they had read the messages on the laptop at this point, but they had access to all of this. How ironically disgusting. During this interview, Farwell made several false statements about not his relationship, but about the disgusting ABUSC with Birchmore. Let's call it what it is. Farwell told officers that he was involved in in a relationship with Birchmore, but he claimed the relationship only began in 2020. Based on this investigation, Farwell's statement to detectives was false. As described above, Farwell began having those disgusting encounters with Birchmore in 2013 and continued to exploit her until near her death. Farwell told detectives that he only had exploited Birchmore 2 or 3 times in the previous year. This was also false. Based on text messages between Farwell and Birchmore, Farwell had exploited her on at least 10 occasions between January 1st in 2020 and February 1st of 2021. And there's probably more. Honestly, there's probably more than what was documented. We know he deleted his conversations with her from his cell phone, but that was what was documented or found, at least based on the text messages that they could see. And I'm assuming from some of the ones that we had read earlier in this document. Farwell also told detectives that he could not have been the father of Birchmore's unborn child because the last time he had exploited her was on October 2020, or in October 2020. This statement was also false. Set forth below is a text message conversation between Farwell and Birchmore on November 18th, 2020, in which they discussed an upcoming exploitation of Sandra Birchmore. Farwell, I'm going to try for tonight. I've been in interviews all day from the unaliving. Sorry. Birchmore, exciting. Okay, I'm running to the store and doing something for you then. I hope you can come. Farwell, what are you doing for me? Birchmore, I'm going to skip over that part. Birchmore, are you planning on rolling me over? I need to know what you want if you come. Farwell, if you want me to roll you, and then it, I guess, skips over a couple messages. Farwell, would you want me to use a contraceptive if I roll you? So I'm assuming, yeah. I don't need to say it. You guys know. I don't have any LOL. I never picked any up. Birchmore, do you want me to just take what you... This is like so... And say no. I know being told no is your favorite. Say no. I can do that. I can do that. And this is why I feel like so many people, because at this point, she is of age, right? But we're not looking at two consenting adults. We're not. We're looking at a woman who had literally been groomed since she was a child into believing that this was A normal relationship, manipulated to believe that he had her best interest at heart, that he cared about her. Maybe she even felt he loved her. Maybe he told her that. I mean, there was no messages that I've seen so far implicating that he did or that they even said it to each other. But nevertheless, you can look at these, and if you didn't know any context about the story, if you didn't know who Matthew Farwell was or Sandra Birchmore, and you were just looking at these texts, I mean, it looks like a normal relationship because that's what he wanted her to believe. He manipulated her into believing this was normal behavior. This was normal, and it wasn't. And it's so disturbing because this happens all the frickin' time. Approximately 21 minutes after the foregoing text messages, Farwell told Birchmore that he was at her apartment, and subsequent text messages indicate that she let him in. Approximately 25 minutes later, Birchmore asked Farwell via text message whether he enjoyed exploiting her again, and he responded, "Yeah, scumbag." During the February 6, 2021 interview, Farwell told detectives that he had been at Birchmore's apartment on the night of February 1st, 2021. However, he denied having anything to do with her death. Yeah, of course, how convenient. Even though you were stalking her place a week before. And she knew it. She was like, "This is weird. What are you doing, dude?" So much so that she told her friends about it. He told detectives that he had arrived around 9:10 and left around 9:30 p.m. "I am aware from my review of surveillance footage from Birchmore's apartment building that Farwell actually left at 9:43 p.m. And remember, too, there was a 13-minute or so delay, but in the earlier in the document, which we read out, like I said in my last video, I'll link that at the very end of this video so you can go check it out. Because then we got the actual version of events, but now we're hearing it from this interview from him, right? That was after Birchmore's phone stopped sending messages or recording movement. Within approximately 13 hours of Farwell's visit to Birchmore's apartment on February 1st, 2021, his wife gave birth to their third child at Newton Wellesley. Again, I'm going to pronounce that wrong. My apologies for any of my friends who were from that area. I apologize for butchering that name. Hospital, adding to the intensifying pressure to ensure that Birchmore would not disclose information regarding Farwell's con. So what a freaking scumbag. Not only did you, one, I mean, lie to your wife about probably everything, hide your deviant, disgusting, evil scumbag behavior with this woman since she was a child. You lied about it with your wife. Then you go and unalive this woman because of your own actions, because you're a freaking loser scumbag who can't take accountability. Then 13 hours later, you go holding your wife's hand and there for the delivery of your freaking child. Like, how depraved, how evil does someone have to be to do that? Oh yeah, and I forgot about the part where you staged it to look like she unalived herself. What a frickin' scum. You are worse than the scum at the bottom of the ocean floor. Holy smokes. That's like other level evil. Farwell told detectives that he had not seen Birchmore at all in the week leading up to her death, except during the visit to her apartment on February 1st, 2021. Based on my review of the text messages between Farwell and Birchmore, Farwell visited Birchmore at her apartment on the 29th. So, yeah, before her unalivement. Farwell told detectives that Birchmore had been sectioned many times. Based on my training and experience, sectioned is a term that Massachusetts law enforcement officers often use to refer to the practice of involuntarily hospitalizing on a temporary basis persons with severe mental health issues. So he's claiming the reason why, I'm assuming, he went to visit her as often as he did was because she was crazy. He's trying to play the crazy card. "Oh, she's crazy. I was trying to be the good police officer who, I knew this girl since she was a kid and she suffered from really bad mental health issues and, I just got called and I wanted to help her." What a friggin' evil man. However, the Staunton Police Department, the law enforcement agency in the town where Birchmore lived her whole life before moving to Canton on or about December 1st, 2020, has a record of Birchmore being subject to this temporary mental health hospitalization only one time in May of 2020. So this is interesting too, guys, because according to police records and information disclosed by Person 7 on that day, Birchmore had gotten into a fight with a family member who called the police and reported Birchmore was going to hurt herself. The police took Birchmore to the hospital where she was evaluated and deemed not a risk for self harm. She was released a few hours later. According to Person 7, Birchmore stated that she was not in self-harming mental state, in a self-harming mental state, just angry at her family member. Additionally, I am aware that minutes after Birchmore's release from this unfounded section, Farwell and Birchmore engaged in a graphic conversation. Later, Birchmore apologized for worrying Farwell, and Farwell replied, "I wasn't worried. I know you were fine." What a freaking asshole. Like, excuse my language, guys, but I mean, like, he's like the worst of the worst. The worst of the worst. And I do want to go back for a second. So we're on page 36. I want to go back for a second just to check some of this timeline. May 2020. Okay. May 2020. Farwell's text messages with Birchmore indicate that he had encounters with Birchmore while he was on duty as a Staunton police officer. Text messages between Farwell and Birchmore indicate that on multiple occasions, Farwell left work during his shifts to meet and at times engage in gross, disgusting activities with Birchmore. These encounters and exploitations occurred at various locations, including Birchmore's previous home in Staunton, her more recent apartment in Canton, a Costco parking lot in Staunton, a Five Guys parking lot in Canton. Examples of these dates and approximate start times are so this is the date. I wonder, I'd be so curious what happened. May 20th. I knew I recognized that date. I knew I recognized that date from something. So May 20th, he had exploited her. It's approximately 7:14 p.m. And then in May, okay, so not May 20th, but in May, and then just jumping back real quick because I want to see if there were any other in May. There was 2 encounters in May. So, there was 2 encounters in May, about 19 days apart. So I wonder when this incident took place. If this was in between, after. I'd be curious to know when this event occurred. So yeah, only one time she was hospitalized for mental health, temporary mental health. And he goes, "I'm not worried." Because you don't care, because you're an absolute scumbag and you're the reason why she has mental health issues. Probably not the only reason why, but I'm guessing you play a big part into that, buddy. The Canton Police Department has no record of Birchmore being subject to temporary mental health hospitalization. So Canton Police has no record of this. No record of this because it was only when she lived in Staunton when she was temporarily hospitalized. While there is evidence that indicates that Birchmore may have had these ideations on a few occasions between 2016 to 2018, again, that was when the ABUSC was occurring full force, which Farwell likely knew about because he was exploiting her during that time. Thank you, Special Agent, for throwing that in there. Yes. I am not aware of credible evidence of any ideations in the approximately 3 years leading up to her death. In fact, all of the witnesses who agents interviewed about their interaction with Birchmore in the weeks leading up to her death suggested that during her period, she was excited, optimistic, and involved in future planning. I need to take a quick sip of my water. Person 7 had a therapy session with Birchmore. So this is the family member on January 31st, 2021. So this is like the day before. During that meeting, person 7 screened Birchmore for any signs of depression or ideation. He or she found none. Person 7 had regular sessions with this is the therapist. This is the therapist. Got it. Okay, I totally misread that. So this is the therapist. Got it. I totally read that wrong. Sorry, guys. I'm like in foggy brain mode because it's been a long day. So during that meeting, person 7 screened, and there's so many people involved in this as well, too. A lot of unnamed persons. Screened Birchmore for any signs of depression or ideation. They said they found none. They had regular sessions with Birchmore and noted no signs of depression or ideation in the months leading up to her death, and had her next appointment scheduled with Birchmore for February. Wow, and that's when they found her body, I believe. So sad. Additionally, Farwell told detectives that he had been trying to distance himself from Birchmore. This is inconsistent with evidence that in Birchmore's final days, Farwell asked for a key to her apartment, and you were on security cam footage, buddy. And I'm fairly certain, too. I mean, he'd be on security cam footage, not even just for that day, but for any days that he was visiting her leading up to the month. So, wouldn't frickin' idiot do you not think that they wouldn't be able to pull that? I mean, granted, security cam footage, we've all heard stories like, oh, it records over old. I don't know how some of these security cam footage works in some of these newer apartment buildings or that specific building itself, but I'd be curious if they had any other footage from that surveillance camera that picked him up from that day. I've also reviewed a text message from January. I mean, not that you need it. You have all these dumb texts that he thought, oh, I deleted the paper trail, and maybe she did, but nope. They found him. I have also reviewed a text message from January 28th, 2021, just days before Birchmore's death, in which Farwell told her that when he came over that night, he would give her hugs. In that same conversation, he's so gross. He told her that he may not be able to visit her because he was at a death, but that it was all good because we do them all the time. He is freaking like, even the way he talks about the stuff that he does in his job, he was at a death. I'm aware that in Farwell's time as a Staunton police officer and then detective, he responded to unattended deaths. This guy is a creep. In addition, I have reviewed a text message exchange between Birchmore and Farwell from January 29, 2021, in which Birchmore expressed joy at Farwell agreeing to engage in SA with her again. Farwell's post interview conduct. Following Birchmore's death, the Staunton Police Department placed Farwell on administrative leave, just like Patrick Rose. That's exactly what they did with Patrick Rose. And I didn't even get actually up to that part in that document. Let me pull that up really quick for you guys. 1 second. So, this is the confidential Internal Affairs Division assessment. So, yeah, prior discipline, current status, admin duty. He was demoted to admin duty and his weapon was restricted. So he had to, I think, turn in some of his firearms. Poor Patrick Rose. Wah. SA unit notified Sergeant Vanderwood that a complaint was issued in the West Roxbury court against police officer Patrick Rose for indecent A and battery on a child under 14. So that was the 12-year-old boy. Victim mitigating circumstances. Victim is unwilling to cooperate with the investigation. Range of disciplinary options. So I thought this was disturbing. I don't know whose handwriting this is, but try to settle. And it looks like this says prior to hearing. This definitely says try to settle. When I read that, I was like, wow. Try to settle with him, with the victim? I don't know. But that's kind of disturbing. Where is it? Oh, yeah. And then, yeah. So, okay. So this was sent then to Commissioner Paul Evans, which we read about in that article. And I think this is from like the union attorney, the union rep on behalf of him. Yeah. On behalf of the Boston Police Patrolmen's Association, which represents Officer Patrick M. Rose. For approximately 2 years, Officer Rose has been assigned to admin duty, denied his firearm, not permitted to work paid details or street duties, wham, 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 thereby depriving him of court overtime, and received only limited station overtime. Wham. The BPPA is considering whether to file a grievance over this issue. In order to properly assess the merits of such a grievance, I am requesting certain information. The Labor Relations Commission has held that an employer must supply a collective bargaining agent with information that is reasonably relevant and necessary to it in the fulfillment of its representational function. It looks like Whittier Regional School Committee. So I guess this is, I don't know. Please therefore supply me with the following. So they were asking for these documents. They want to essentially know, how can we get him back? This is so good. Because of the financial hardship visited upon Officer Rose by his present assignment. This is like Trooper Proctor, except like 50 times worse. I must ask that your response to this information request be received no later. Like, because of this, oh, poor baby, your financial hardship. What about the freaking victim? The 12-year-old boy who you traumatized for the rest of his life. Oh, and then his daughter. Allegedly. So yeah, he was demoted down to admin duty, and they took away, and here it is, folks. Sustained investigation disclosed sufficient evidence to support allegations in this complaint. So for me, it's like, was that from statement given by the boy? Was that from physical evidence? Because at this point, it's the 90s, right? So there's DNA. I don't know what in terms they could collect, what they couldn't collect, but what evidence? I'm so curious. Enough to say they sustained it. But he was dumbing down to admin duty, just like Mr. Farwell. Eerily similar. Eerily similar. Except he was put on admin leave. So not admin duty. Paid admin duty. He got admin leave, but he was still getting paid. Around that time, Farwell met a coworker, person 4, at a local bar. During that meeting, Farwell told person 4 that he an had SA had essayed Birchmore. However, according to person 4, at no point during the conversation did Farwell express any sadness, grief, or remorse about her death, because he did it, allegedly. Farwell told person 4 that he was angry with MSP for looking into him. Yeah, that doesn't really sound like a upset partner, but all right. When the Massachusetts State Police looking into me, guess what? It's fine, buddy. They're not going to do anything. The feds are going to have to step in because the MSP has got your back. At some point during the summer of 21, person 4 attended a social gathering with Farwell, during which Farwell participated in a joke about Birchmore. What a trash bag human being. I'm not even reading this out loud. Y'all can read it on the screen. What an absolute disgrace to the human race. When you think he can't get worse, folks, he gets even more worse. So, additional evidence relevant to detention. And again, this is all from the federal document. Farwell had a history of choking Birchmore. Through this investigation, agents have identified evidence that Farwell expressed an interest in violent behavior and has a history of choking Birchmore. On more than one occasion, Farwell asked Birchmore to perform his R fantasies during his essay of her. Whereby Birchmore, I mean, you don't need to perform it. You don't need to ask her to perform it or act it out, buddy, because you're doing it. It's a reality. You sick F-U-C-K. Birchmore would pretend to be the victim of Farwell's simulated essays. Moreover, I have reviewed text messages that indicate that over the course of their relationship, Farwell initiated the concept of choking Birchmore on numerous occasions. In 2020, the year preceding her death, text messages reveal that Farwell told Birchmore on at least 20 separate occasions that he would grab her throat, pin her down. Trigger warning, folks. I mean, this whole thing is a big fat trigger warning, so just know that. Trigger warning. Squeeze her throat or choke her during SA. These messages were sent on the following dates: January 29th of 2020, February 20th, 2020, February 21st of 2020, March 9th of 2020, March 23rd, 2020, March 30th, 2020, April 2nd, 2020, May 11th, 2020. So this was in between their encounters. May 14th, 2020, also in between, and May 15th, 2020, June 4th. So all three of these dates are in between those two encounters that we scrolled back to earlier, of when he had taken her to the Costco parking lot. Creep. June 4th, 2020, June 7th, 2020, June 13th. It's like, for somebody who's like, oh, delete the paper trail, I don't want to get caught. It's like, you're really not doing yourself, like, I mean, thank God for idiots, but You're really not doing yourself a favor by documenting all of this yourself, sir, and all these other dates. So right up until November 13th, which is interesting because they started to really go back and forth. I mean, it was pretty much, I feel like, from October on, maybe earlier, that she had started to fight back a little bit. And he was starting to pull away, as he says, but really just disengage and treat her even worse than what he was treating. I mean, if that's even believable. Based on my review of Birchmore's journal entries as early as 2013, when Birchmore was just 16, Farwell introduced the idea of choking during his essay and discussions with her. One such example of Farwell promising to choke Birchmore occurred on October 14th, 2020, when Farwell told Birchmore that he was going to. Okay, I mean, this stuff is like absolutely sick. I'm not gonna really read it. I mean, it's up on the screen. You guys can read it. You can read through the documents. I'll include it in the description below. On October 15th, Farwell told Birchmore that during their next essay, he was going to grab her and say, so shut the F up now or I won't pull out. On November 13th, so this was the last date that he talked about this. That's recorded or documented. They discussed it again. During that discussion, he told her, maybe I'll do this disgusting, horrible thing. He asked her how tight he should squeeze, and then, so I'm assuming around her neck, and then stated that he wanted her to feel like, oh my God, is this really happening? I can't stop it. Farwell used violence as a form of punishment. Birchmore's journal entries from 2013 to 2020 detail a continuous and sometimes violent essay with Farwell. Birchmore often journaled about Farwell using essay to punish her. According to her journal entries, Farwell would engage in forceful acts to push her for her mistakes, such as getting bad grades, having again, like they say here, intercourse, and for me that means there's consent involved, but I mean, it's like with who? With who? And like, was it even consensual? Because we just don't know. I don't know. And regardless, it's like she's allowed to do whatever she wants. She's a young woman, she's an adult, she's trying to figure out herself and what she actually likes, and she doesn't even get to know that because, one, you unalived her, so you robbed her of that experience of becoming a woman and learning how to find the joy in pleasure. You took that away from her, and then you shame her for trying to explore that and to find her pleasure from potentially other people where there is consent, where it isn't this disgusting dynamic that you created for her in this warped reality that she lived in. But you punish her, even though you have a wife. And who knows how many other survivors there were that were affected by you and your gross, disgusting actions. And failing to share her cell phone location with him. So he's acting like this is classic ABUSC. This is classic. This is like, because in his mind, he's treating it like, oh, I have complete and utter control of you at all times. And now that you're a woman, because she's no longer a child, he needs to pull in the reins. Well, she's an adult now. She has her own car. She can drive around. She has a job. She has her own apartment. She has her own friends. She can do this. She can do that. He's losing control. So now he's acting like a possessive boyfriend, which he's not. Classic ABUSER. Classic. I have reviewed numerous text messages that Farwell sent Birchmore, including some from March 2019, which are consistent with Farwell's practice of using certain essay to punish her for lying or being intimate with someone else. For example, in a text conversation on March 7th, 2019, so this is well before 2020, um, Farwell said, "You would have to take it serious." He's so gross. "To make me happy." Birchmore, "Is it for everything?" Farwell, "No." Farwell, "You owe me 3." "She doesn't owe you anything, you disgusting scumbag." Farwell, "I'll give you a break and spread them out." Birchmore, "Please not all the same day." This is so upsetting to freaking read. Farwell, "No, I'll give you like a week so you can feel it, and then as soon as it goes away, you'll get it again so you feel it like a whole month." Birchmore, "Not going to be a fun month. Not for you." I really hope he gets the worst possible punishment possible because he is I hate this man so much. He's so awful. Farwell's fixation with our fantasies. Text message is between Farwell and Birchmore reveal Farwell's interest in SA. For example, in one text message on November 8th, 2020, Farwell told Birchmore that he enjoyed having saying her. When Birchmore asked what would be perfect for him, Farwell replied, "You say no and make me take it, full R word." 19. This is a footnote. Based on my review of the text messages between Farwell and Birchmore, I believe Farwell is referring to R as the R word in this message. It's like, why abbreviate there? Like, you're already throwing it all out there, buddy. When Birchmore indicated that she was amenable to that, Farwell responded, "Doesn't matter. I'll do whatever I want." Well, yeah, clearly we know that you will do whatever you want, you disgusting scumbag. During another text message conversation between Farwell and Birchmore, Farwell instructed Birchmore to call him daddy. This is so creepy. That's so creepy. It's so cringe. In that conversation on October 18th, Farwell told Birchmore that daddy was going to engage in more essay. He also indicated that when he was done, he was going to again. I mean, I'm just not going to read that. It's just way too much. It's way too much. Farwell has obsessive and controlling tendencies. Text messages between Farwell and Birchmore include Farwell's repeated demands that Birchmore set her phone's location sharing settings to allow him to always view her location. I wonder if she got to see your location too, buddy. In these text conversations, Farwell indicated that Birchmore needed to share this information in order to gain back his trust for alleged lies and infidelity. It can't be infidelity, buddy, when one, you're not in a relationship. You've been essaying her. And two, you're married. Like, the deep psychological trauma that this poor woman endured, not only just physical, but the emotional too that's tied with that physical, and just repeated systemic over and over and over for nearly a decade. It's just so disgusting. He asked her on March 11th why her location was off and why he can't see it anymore. Because maybe, I don't know, maybe she wants to talk to people her own age and engage in normal, healthy relationships and not be stuck under your thumb all the time. On March 22nd, he asked her to reveal her location. When she responded she was at 7-Eleven, Farwell told her that he knew she was in Abington, and he asked multiple times why she would go there when Staunton has 100 convenience stores. Why do you care? April 22nd, 2019, Farwell sent Birchmore a text message stating, "I know you're hiding crap, your location is off again." On June 22nd, 2019, Farwell sent Birchmore a text message asking why she turned off her location data the other day. On July 5th, 2019, he again reached out to Birchmore saying, "I see your location's off again." What a creepy weirdo. In July of 2020, Farwell apparently transitioned from wanting to track Birchmore's location to prioritizing secrecy. Yeah, isn't that ironic? So nearly a year later, he's like, "You got to delete everything. Everything. Please delete this. Please delete this." Farwell, you can turn your location back off if you want. Birchmore, it wasn't off. That's why I wasn't sure why it wasn't showing up. Then I just unshared it and reshared it with you. You can have it. It's been a thing for years, lol. He goes, "LOL, okay." Birchmore, I don't care if you know where I am. I'm not doing anything I shouldn't be. My leg's shaking a crap ton right now. I'm feeling that tomorrow. Oh, okay. Farwell, I know. LOL, I know. I know that I just don't really like any of that stuff. Big Brother is always watching. The irony. Birchmore, I don't understand what you mean. Farwell, I'm just saying iPhones keep track of way too much stuff. I don't mean anything by it, but you do. But you do. You're like, I don't want to get caught. Because now I understand how technology works. I'm a detective. Farwell's iCloud account contains disturbing images regarding violence and oh boy, oh lord, on all oh okay. I mean, I've heard of some of this stuff, but like it's just seeing it is just like holy smokes. During this investigation, pursuant to a federal search warrant, agents obtained and reviewed data from Farwell's iCloud account. Located in Farwell's iCloud were several memes that indicated his interest in SA, with a meme that states, "What does a pulse and a O have in common? I don't care if she has either." Another meme states, "If you F a I really can't even read that. Oh my god, a meme glorifying a person who unalives and essays someone who no one will miss." Wow, you were just like the most evil of all evil, aren't you, Mr. Farwell? Farwell's iCloud data also connect. Like, who would want to be friends or protect this scumbag? Like, this. Who are you? That's. Oh wait, we know who. Sorry, John Fanning, Nick Garino. Yep, your buddy Matt. Are you into this stuff too? Like, one has to speculate. Why else would you be like, "Yeah, I'll protect my boy Matt. He's into some weird stuff, but he's a good guy." Oh, and he also has me or images that reveal his interest in DV. Great. A meme containing a photo of a woman with. Yeah, no, I can't read that. It's nope. Mm-mm. iCloud data includes images that could reveal his interest in strangulation. So this is really telling here. For example, one such image states, you can read that. That's way too disturbing. It's also a screenshot of an image of a woman saying that she could not sleep, followed by a man doing what he did to Sandra Birchmore. Sick. Farwell's efforts to conceal his crimes. So we have 2 pages left of this, folks. I know this is a tough one to go through, but it it's important. Um It's important because we're understanding, what the FBI was investigating and how it was possibly met with all of this stuff. It's not like they're like, "Oh, this was based off of witness testimony," and, this is based off of information they collected from his iCloud account that they retrieved from Sandra Birchmore's laptop, from her text message exchange between herself and Matthew Farwell. This is all information the state police had and did nothing. Did absolutely nothing. So after giving his personal cell phone to the state police detectives, Farwell used his Staunton police issued cell phone to make and delete 2 Google searches. First, Farwell searched for and deleted "House Long to Die." Sorry, wrong case. Can delete iMessage be recovered? I think, yeah. So that'd be by Celebrite. I mean, we know that Jem McCabe didn't Google that. And how wild is this? That this happened just over a year before Officer John O'Keefe was unalived. It's the similarities between the 2 cases, and again, even his crimes and behavior and the cover up. But the Patrick Rose case, I mean, this is absolutely insane. He then searched for and deleted "Can you revoke consent" in Massachusetts, because remember, according to the indictments, because you have to be, I think it's like within that like 10-year window, but if you're a officer of the law, then all of that privileged. It doesn't matter if she was 16 and there was an age of consent. It doesn't matter because it's within that 10-year, or it's not, it doesn't matter if it's within that 10-year window or not, if you are an officer of the law. I have identified text messages between Farwell and Birchmore in which Farwell directed Birchmore to destroy evidence of his essay. On March 11th, 2019, Farwell sent Birchmore a text reminding her to make sure you clear all this out. On March 19th, 2019, Farwell sent Birchmore texts about his desire to use. So like, he's so dumb. He's so dumb. He's like, a few days before, "Hey, make sure you delete everything, but let me also text you this quick thing," but then delete it right at, like, what a freaking idiot. I mean, thank God, though. Thank God for his stupidity and thinking that you could just delete stuff and it'll never get recovered. It's the cloud. Nothing is ever really deleted from the cloud, especially when you have advanced technology that can literally extract that data. At the end of this conversation, Farwell sent her a text indicating that he was going to go to bed and instructed her to clear out this text. June 5th, 2019, Farwell directed Birchmore to make sure all of their text messages and Facebook messages had been deleted. Yeah, because I know some people were like, "Oh, there were no text messages." There were text messages, iMessages. I'm assuming she had a. I'm sure it was in here somewhere, and I'm just not remembering at the moment. But I'm assuming she also had an iPhone as well too. He had an iPhone because he was talking about iMessage in the Google search, and we had learned earlier. I think he had like an iPhone 11 or something like that. Um, So yeah, and if you aren't an Apple phone user, an iMessage is a text message essentially. The only difference is that you get that blue little bubble instead of the green bubble when you text, and if you're in Wi-Fi, you can send a text message without using your data, your cell phone data. That's the only difference. You can send a text message or iMessage through your Wi-Fi network instead of having to always use your data. So that is literally all iMessage means. Literally. And sometimes they have fun little like reacting emojis that you can use as well too. I don't know if Android has that as well. I am an iPhone user, so that's that's what it is. But in case there's any confusion, so when they're saying text messages, it's interchangeable. It's iMessage, text message, whatever phone she had. I believe she also had an iPhone, but nevertheless, it was a text message via the phone. And they also communicated through Facebook, which all have been deleted. Or he directed her to delete all of them from her side. There are also text messages between Farwell and Birchmore in which Farwell directed Birchmore to destroy evidence regarding the beginning of his essay, or I'm sorry, of her essay. This would be evidence of Farwell's efforts to coerce and entice Birchmore to engage in essay when she was 15. Farwell, wish we had just done it for real the first time. Birchmore, I know you do, baby. Sad face. Farwell, it would have been perfect. Birchmore, yes. Birchmore, was it still perfect the first time? Farwell, of course it was, baby. Birchmore, smiley. Farwell, I never thought you'd let me. Birchmore, I never thought you would. Farwell, I wanted it so bad. He's so disgusting. Birchmore, so did I knew the day we made eye contact, I wasn't, I wanted you to. Farwell, you should have told me we could have so much sooner. Birchmore, smiley face. Farwell, clear out that part, baby. Birchmore, I did. Farwell, good girl. I mean, but not clear out any of this. Like, okay. Conclusion. The information set forth above supports the government's motion to detain Matthew Farwell pending trial in this case. Special agent dated August 28th. So those are all 45 pages of the detention affidavit in support of the government's motion to detain Matthew, disgusting, evil, depraved scumbag Farwell. I know this is a really tough case for a lot of people, myself included, but it's important. It's important to get these conversations going. And I know sometimes it's graphic, it's hard to read through, it's hard to understand or process that this stuff can even happen, but it does happen. And these conversations do need to be had, not only just with ourselves, but with young people as well too, whether you're a parent or not, you're an aunt, an uncle, a sibling, a friend, a teacher, right? We need to have these conversations and push for more initiatives to go through to have these kinds of hard conversations with young people in general, no matter how uncomfortable it is, because we need to teach our kid. We can't always be every single place at every single time of the day with our kids. I'm not a parent yet. I plan to be a parent in the near future. I have a niece, and while she's super little, I mean, it's like you just don't know. Like, you really really don't know. It's a scary frickin' world out there. And again, based on my own experiences, even when there are other adults around, it doesn't matter. You can't always trust the people that are around the predator, because sometimes those people are enablers of that predator, which is even more terrifying, because you think that leaving your child with adults that you trust and that seem to be doing the right thing, especially in something as so sweet and innocent as an explorers program to teach young people about having a career in law enforcement. Again, going back to our conversation earlier in the video, believe it was this take of the video. Who knows? I've done so many takes of this video. But When you go around the room and, you're asked as a kid, "What do you wanna be when you grow up?" How many kids say, "I wanna be a police officer, I wanna be a firefighter, a doctor, a teacher, a lawyer," whatever, right? All these people that we put into our heads and we grow up to believe that there's no stranger danger when it comes to people who are of these positions of power. These are the people we should be trusting. We should feel the most comfortable around because they should have our best interest at heart. And sometimes they're the most dangerous. And it's so scary. It's so scary that we have to constantly put our safety guards up.